Hi, I'm Keith McKinley here to talk about 10 common research paper problems. The first of which is ignoring the manual of style and any templates that the Writing Center has for you. So go to Southern Seminary's website, look at the Writing Center. They've got a great deal of information there that will help. So take their help and get it early. Number two is having a lack of a thesis and then a reasonable outline and then a summary and conclusion. So let me go over these one by one. First of all, thesis. A thesis is a clear, usually concise sentence that explains what you want to accomplish in your paper. Look, this might sound overly simplistic, but I think a great way to do it is to finish this sentence. In this paper, I will, and then say what you're going to do. I found that to be very, very helpful. For students, it's a great way to set your thesis forward. And what about an outline? An outline should flow naturally from your thesis statement. You look at a thesis statement and say, okay, in order to do that, I need to blah, 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 whatever those things that you need to do. So an outline should flow from your thesis and it should support your thesis. If you're writing something and it doesn't fit your thesis, doesn't fit your outline, delete it. And this is a great place to use headings and subheadings. Once again, look at the manual of style, how to do that. But use headings and subheadings that make sense. Sometimes people get really crafty, I guess, and poetic or exciting, and yet it doesn't make sense, or I can't really understand what your argument is. This is technical writing, not creative writing. Technical writing requires clarity more than imaginative sorts of writing. And make good use of summaries. It's a good practice to summarize your hard work before moving on to the next section. So for major sections in your paper, you don't have to do this with every paragraph, but for big sections of your paper, summarize it for your reader to help them remember and recall and emphasize what you're really trying to do in that section, and then move on to the next. And then finally conclude something. Have a conclusion. Wrap up all that good work that you've done, and in a sense, you want to answer the question, well, so what about your paper? All right, now back to number 3 of our top 10 mistakes. Number 3 is making an argument without warrant. A warrant is backing. We often refer to these as citations or references. So when you make a claim, so sometimes people say, well, how many references do I need, or how many books do I need in my bibliography? Well, as far as how many footnotes or references you need, basically you need at least one, and sometimes more, citations for every argument that you're making. If you're making an assertion that Jesus is the only Savior, and you make that argument in a nice, clear way, well, then point to at least one, perhaps 2 or 3 sources that are authoritative, that are experts in the field, and that agree with you. By the way, it's also good as you're building an argument to deal with contrary arguments, okay? But use authoritative sources. Don't use blogs, and avoid most web-based opinion pieces. Use things that have been published in journals or in books, and even those that are reputable. Number 4 is ignoring substantial literature on the topic. I see this really often, more often than I'd like to. I'll read a paper and I'll turn to the bibliography, or I'll notice the footnotes are all coming from the books that I assigned in the class. I'm appreciative that you're reading those books. I'm appreciative that they're helping you write your paper, but often there's a lot more on the topic that you're writing about. I'm teaching about a subject and I'm using books that I think you'll find helpful, that's for sure. But then when you're writing a paper about a specific aspect of the class, or it might even be something we haven't touched on in class. So then you need to be going to good sources and good literature on that topic. We have a massive library that is accessible to you physically and online. And in addition to that, you now have Logos Max that has a vast number of really good literature on almost every topic that we have in class. So make good use of that. Number 5, overusing direct quotes. If you get the Chicago Manual of Style, and you should have a copy of the Chicago Manual of Style, read what Kate Turabian has written on how to quote. She has a great paragraph on how to present someone else's ideas in your own words. It's very, very helpful. And then, of course, cite it properly, as Turabian will help you do as well. Related is the use of block quotes. So this is number 6. A sixth problem in research papers is giving a block quote without significant interaction with that quoted material. So let me just give you a warning. If you insert a block quote, you must comment on it. You must discuss it, analyze it, help me know why and understand why you made me read the thing. Notice your own reading patterns. I would be willing to bet most of you skip over block quotes. Well, if you don't want people to skip over a block quote, and you don't, then you need to interact with it, talk about it, discuss it, analyze it, demonstrate that it's got a reason to be there if you're going to have to use it at all. Number 7 is a lack of transition between paragraphs and sections. Help your reader follow your argument by giving transition statements between sections especially, but even between paragraphs. Number 8 is having an unclear subject or an unclear antecedent. Look at your sentences. If they begin with they are or it is, sentences like that, those can be very confusing because we don't know what this is or who they are or what it is that you're talking about. So be sure you state your antecedent or the subject of your sentence. Number 9 is overuse of passive voice. It makes sentences very wordy. It can make them a little bit complex, and sometimes you even lose your place of what you're talking about while stumbling over how to make a very passive sentence. So avoid passive voice except when you want to place emphasis on the object focus, grammatical structure. Microsoft Word has an editing feature that you can turn on, and it'll help you locate and correct passive language. And finally, the use of casual language and slang. That just ain't right, and it won't play. So there you go. Top 10 common mistakes in research papers that I hope now you will avoid. See ya.